Welcome back. As you know, we are working on our last segment of season 2 for SeniorFlix, and we've been talking with Pastor Ron. This is the last video for the season, and I'm so privileged and honored to have Pastor Ron and just get glimpses into his life and his wisdom that he's collected over the years. Pastor Ron, as we've been kind of discovering, you wear many hats and there's so many elements to your stories. There's this article I'm holding in my hand from the Sage magazine that you wrote, and it says, "Never let a good story get in the way of truth." This is very intriguing, and would you share with us a bit more about this story?
Sure. Thank you, Tassine. There's it's a sort of a twist on a saying, right? A proverb. Never let a good story get in the way, or never let the truth
Get in
get
the,
in the way of a good story. Well, we switched it
yeah.
around. Never let a good story get in the way of truth. And so I'll just read a little bit about it. It's taken a well-known pop song from 1963. And as I mentioned, there was a lot I remember about growing up in the 50s and 60s that was pretty meaningful. The song is entitled "Puff the Magic Dragon Lived by the Sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper," and it goes on. Now, quite a few years ago, I probably would have sang that for you. I was when I was in public school, I was actually the lead soloist for the community choir, and then after I became a Christian, follower of Jesus, I was often singing, and my mother would play the piano, and I would sing in the church, and a couple of community fairs and things like that. Went on to Bible college and joined a group there, and made some really good friends with it. And then Darla and I did a little traveling when we were in Bible college, singing together. So a little bit of our history there as well. Then you get into church and ministry, and things change, and you allow other people to do and step into those roles as well. But I loved that song when I was a kid, and the truth is, I actually still love it. It wasn't until the 70s that I learned the truth about Puff and Jackie. I was really quite naive. I mean, seriously, I thought it was a story about growing older and the loss of innocence. Little did I know that it was about marijuana and cocaine. Thank goodness someone enlightened us. Even Leonard Lipton, who wrote the poem, and Peter Yarrow, who put it to music, were naive enough to think it was about a boy and his magic dragon. They continued to deny the truth and were never fully enlightened. Now, I'm writing a little bit with a tongue-in-cheek here. However, there were those who knew. They knew the truth. Of course, the magic dragon was marijuana, and Jackie Paper refers to the paper that it was rolled in. Roll your own paper, and once it's rolled, puff. A little less obvious is lived by the sea. Sea was referring to, in capital letters, for cocaine. So the mist of the day was living in a fog. How foolish. I mean, when we were kids, we were foolish. We were to think there could be a simple song about the loss of innocence, and such nonsense. Lipton placing the blame on Ogden Nash and his tale of Custard the Dragon as an inspiration. So Lipton basically said that he picked up a tale of about Custer the Dragon, and he wrote this thing down. Well, even though the writers denied its meaning, those who knew the truth were not seriously offended and allowed to play on the radio. Maybe it was because they smoked enough of Puff and the Dragon to be a little mellow and less offended by things. I can't say that I understand, but on occasion, however, I can still secretly listen to Puff and Jackie and really enjoy it. My point is, conspiracy theorists must be a twirl, sorting their way through the previous thoughts. As they're listening to, they're thinking, am I suggesting that I secretly puff from Jackie's paper? Obviously, those who know me and those familiar with my writing will understand my sardonic sense of humor. We live in an age of make-believe. And I remember listening to a Dr. Richard Dobbins suggest in my early years of pastoral ministry that what happened to you isn't as important as the story you tell yourself. And the truth be told, the context of his message, he was correct. Context and history are important, even when it comes to nursery rhymes and childhood fantasy. So when Leonard Lipton, inspired by Nash's poem, wrote the lyrics to Puff the Magic Dragon, marijuana and cocaine were not the frequent flyers that they are today. In fact, those of us growing up in the 50s and early 60s didn't really hear much about drugs until the second half of the 70s or the second half of the 60s and the Summer of Love in 1967. The deaths of Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, and Janis Joplin in the 70s and 71 brought the psychedelic years crashing down upon us. So the disillusionment that happened after that sort of brought back a sense of reality. Well, I'm writing here and I'm saying it's too easy to cast a shadow back and reinvent history based on present-day experience and assumptions. The lyrics were written prior to the upheaval of the 60s and early 70s, a tumultuous time of unrest and also revolt. Puff was written in the time of folk music, early rock and roll, and crooners. It wasn't a time of hard acid and so on. Leonard Lipton and Peter Yarrow have both insisted they wrote the song about the sadness of getting older and the accompanying loss of innocence. Well, we all know what that's like. And that's part of what drew me into the actual song itself. You know, Jackie is losing his magical friend, and Puff is losing his friend as well. So it's surely not about drugs.